Hello. How are you, ladies and gentlemen? Kalekye. Kalekye.
Yes.
My fault. How are you?
I'm good, thank
And asante sana. Thank you for allowing us to give you a ride.
Yeah,
today.
thank you. This is interesting. I'm interested in just discovering how this all works. So
Yes.
I'm happy to be part of this show.
And you've gotten into the digital space.
Yes, yes.
You're quite prominent there in the digital space. But let's go back to your earlier days.
Okay.
And how it's now different from mainstream media now, since you're now leveraging the brand that you worked so hard to create.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how were your days in media? I mean, as a radio presenter.
Yeah.
As a TV presenter as well.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
So for me, I knew I wanted to be on radio from the age of 10 because then the only station was VOK, and if you're from my generation, you know that was where we would run for everything. And because there was a show called Beat Time that I really, really used to love, finish your homework quickly and get to listen to Beat Time. And one of the things that I quickly was into was the fact that I want to be inside that radio. I want to be that person. Of course, my parents didn't quite appreciate that, because back then everyone thought if you're doing that, you're doing it as part-time for fun. What is being in that industry? It doesn't make sense. You need a job where you're going to have a name on the door and you're going to be a boss or something. So that was quite the fight, yeah. But so going forward from then was a question of how do I get into this thing, because I loved doing anything that was entertainment based. So through primary to high school, I was in the school plays and the music halls, drama fest, music fest. And that time my mom is like, "You're not reading." and to be honest, it was like trying to quash somebody who has a talent in this thing. And so from being in a day school, I was shifted to a boarding school. Of course, even there, I still continued to do anything entertainment, debate club, name it. So when I finished high school, now the question was, where are you going to go to do your degree? Me, I'm looking for a place that does communication. Our options were KMC or you go to Daystar. And my folks were like, there's nothing. You're going to go to USIU. Your brothers are there. They have done well. You're going to go and find a degree there. And so, because they're the ones paying the fees, you go. And I picked my degree, Inky Pinky Ponky. I didn't care for anything that was there. I was not interested in business, IT. I picked international relations because I was like, I don't know what this is. So let's go find out. And lucky enough, international relations was quite awesome. It was quite an awesome degree because you get to do research, you get to do a lot of reading, there's a politics angle, the debate angle. Somehow that kind of helped me with what I ended up doing. So when I finished that degree, handed it to my parents, here you are, honors, nini. Then I go start looking for what I want. Of course, I still had to do my internship. I worked at the Turkish embassy. I did my internship. They offered me a contract, but me, I was bored. I was like, what am I doing here? I want to go into this media thing. And so, after a certain point, your parents' reins on you when you start working can't be so tight. So I started now saying, okay, let me find a place to go. And as I was doing that, my crab of homeboys gives me a call and says, listen, when you were in USIU, you were in the welfare committee, you were the chair, and you used to give us so many gigs. And me, I want to set up now. He was coming back from the UK. I'd worked with his team while he was away. And he's like, I want to set up an office. And I want you to come and run it for me and help me market. So me, I thought to myself, perfect. I'll go work with them. They've just gotten a deal to produce DJ shows for Capital FM. Hopefully one day they'll send me to Capital to take the CD, because we were in trading in CDs. And then I'll go and try and tell them how they can do a voice test, or they'll hear me talk and they'll hear that I'm dope. Of course, that didn't happen. But so that's how my journey started. And so from there, I ended up in Karen, working for a production house. I kind of met those guys through the Homeboys guys. The Homeboys guys were like, us guys are not seeing how you can be a technical person. You're so good at running our business. We don't want you to get sidelined. So I was not happy. I wanted to move, meet this Mzungu and his Mukamba wife. And they say they're looking for someone to run their studio. They like the way I'm running Mike's Place, but they'll train me. So I actually started with them, a studio called Rough Cuts Productions. I don't know if you're familiar with Rough Cuts, Lee Smith. And he trained me. So I'm a trained sound engineer. So he trained me. I worked there, then moved on in my own right to work at Mediva. We were producing Tazama, Agenda Kenya. And in all that, I had now given up on my dream to be on radio. Because, man, I had sent fax. Fax. CV, fax. And found a place to record my voice tests and send tapes. I began from tapes, then we moved because we couldn't afford CDs. So by the time now, it's 5 years in since I graduated. I'm now doing sound engineering. I am at Mediva. And I'm thinking, you know what, as much as this job is hard because you work all sorts of hours and creativity for some reason comes at like 2 a.m. So I didn't have a life. And I thought to myself, well, you know what, I've become good at this. I've been taught in the School of Hard Knocks and I'm fine. So why not just forget about radio, stay here and survive? Then Capital FM had something they call Radio Idols competition. And they then, did this call out to people to send in their CVs. Not even voice tests, just send in your CV. So my best friend tells me, listen, so you send. I'm like, but these guys have so many of my CVs by now, surely. If they've never called me, what will change today? But what was different was that now it was the presenters on air, Leo and Marcus and Leo, were the ones who were doing this Radio Idol. So it was a whole different competition from being received by HR. It was totally different. So I decided, okay, fine, I'll send it. I was like, I'm not editing for nothing. I'm sending this thing the way my sound engineering jobos I have filled 10 pages because every job you touch through andika. In that kind of line of work, you andika. And I sent the thing. They called me because it was 10 pages long. They couldn't believe there was a 20-something-year-old with a 10-page long CV. They're like, hey, how? They wrote me back. They said, my gosh, we have to meet you. Even the way I sent the email, I was tired. So I said, your search ends now. If you don't know what you're looking for, don't bother calling me back. Something really random like that. And I guess that's the reason why they did call. And so then they say, look, you've been selected out of a bunch of people. So we want 10 of you to come and do a set with us guys, an hour with the presenters. The audience will then vote for who they like. I said, fine. So we set a date. Now, remember, I'm still working at Mediva. And this is an NGO-funded place. And just when we thought that work is coming to Isha, we get the contract to now do Agenda Kenya. And my boss says, okay, so now we have to go and do our recce. So we go to do our recce. On the same day, I am supposed to be at Capital. We're at film studios. Me, I'm there now. Jesho, Jembamba, sweating, saying, we won't finish. We won't. And sure enough, when you're wrecking and doing a setup for it just, you can't time it. So I'm seeing 3 o'clock is fast approaching. I'm not going to be able to leave this set. And I'm the sound engineer. I have to lay cables. I have to tell people what to do. Where am I going? I can't go. So I called and I feigned a story. Which I told Kina Marcus, I tell you, my mom is sick. I can't come. The worst part is, somebody hears Marcus on radio saying, yes, we were supposed to have this other contestant. Her name is Kalekye. And sadly, her mom is sick. So we wish her a quick recovery. We'll see if we'll get another day. And calls my mother. As I try to tell my mom, no, I'm busy. One of those. Eventually, they tell me, look, if you're going to come again, because we had really timed our days of when we have the contest, the only day we are seeing before we get to the semis is a public holiday. We don't guarantee much listenership because on public holidays, people watch TV, blah, blah, blah. They're distracted. But if you really want, I told them, you know what, please just give me that day. I'll come. So when I go to do the show, kumbe, these guys have gone and pulled my X-Files. Previously, I had chatted with Pinky. Pinky used to run the mid-morning show. And there used to be a thing she calls love lines. And so you could send a message to somebody that you've been trying to reach, or somebody that you want to connect to, blah blah blah. Now me, see, I had done one of those things some time back. I had sent one of those to some guy that I could, and you know, she had tried to call him but didn't get through. So these guys, Marcus and Leo, have all this information. I don't know. So I get on the show, and they bring it up, and they say, now you never got to call the guy. Where is the guy? Is he in your life? I'm like, yeah, I've not heard from that guy. We're calling him. I'm like, what? They're like, we're calling him on air now. If you don't do it, then, you know, really, you don't have the backbone for radio. I said, call him. Call him. What is it? The guy's thing went to answering, thank God. But I had to leave a message, and they left a message. It was a whole mess. But it was apparently so funny, so well received, that being a public holiday, the guy who was the head of agency at Scanad, which is the biggest agency at the time, he and his hangi woke up and said he's coming to the studio to see who this is, whose voice is this. I was like, wow. And indeed, the audiences voted and I won. So I actually took 5 years before I got a shot that I almost didn't want, was approaching with Madarao. And then I win this competition, which they were giving a small 14-inch TV, but I was happy I didn't have one before. And a phone, like an old Samsung phone, and the one that had like an aerial. And the opportunity to be trained. And so they trained me. Which is pretty much graveyard shift and all kind of things. Now this other end, I go, I shoot, then I come, I sleep for 2 hours, then I go. By midnight, I'm at the station until 5 a.m. Sleep another few hours, go work. So I did that for about 2 months.
So 2 jobs.
Yes. The one for Capital is a training, so you're not getting paid,
Exactly.
but you're working from 12 at night to 6 in the morning. And then you sleep a bit, then you go and you continue with your normal life. And so that's how eventually, after I do that, this other end, we finish shooting. And now the funding is over, so they're like, hey, let's take a break. We don't know if we'll get funding again. So I say, okay, fine. Then I better find something else to do, because now my training here is ended. Yeah. This thing is ended. Then my cousin was getting married in TZ. And I'm like, I'm coming a week early. Yeah. As I head to TZ, I get a call from Capital. And they say, where are you? So I say, on a bus, about to get to the border. Like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to TZ for a wedding. Why? I say, now, we need you to come back as soon as possible. I said, no, I'm on the way to TZ. I'll come back when I'm coming back. Why? We need you to come and start on breakfast. I said, but what's happening? Ses and Gatia were on at the time. And they say, no, now you and Ses will do the show together. Ses Mutungi. Now, Ses is a family friend from childhood. So I said, wow, breakfast. I said, okay. So now I went to TZ very happy. I bambaed, I enjoyed myself. I told them, you will wait, because I'd not had a break. I'd been working crazy shifts. So I was like, I need the break. And when I came back, and I started breakfast. So that's how I began.